in here. We will have the recording available if you would like to review the presentation again afterwards or share it with anyone else in your office. Okay. After you saw the 277 CA charts, how did you do? If you have been able to see those at this point. One, it was about where you expected. In other words, whatever you thought that you were doing, that is about what you found. Number two, you were surprised at how well that you were doing. Three, you were surprised at how poorly that you were doing, i.e., you were doing worse than you thought you were, below average if you thought perhaps you were above or average, or you simply haven't seen the performance charts. So take just a moment there to answer that question. We've got 70% of the people voting at this moment. All right, I'm going to close the poll and share that with everyone. And we've got about 10% of the people say they did about what they were expecting. Another 10% were surprised by how well that they were doing. And about 30% were surprised at how poorly that they were doing. And about 50% of the people haven't seen the performance charts yet. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. But the 30% who were surprised at how poorly that they were doing, I'm going to we're going to focus on how that we can improve those numbers for you. So this will be hopefully a really good webinar for you to consider. All right, let's jump into it here. Let me. Okay. First question, or the first thing I want to talk about just a little bit, is kind of where did this come from? And as many of you know, a lot of you are sending your claims to us, and through our gateway, we're then sending those claims on to Medicare for you. As a result of us submitting those for you, we get back a 999, which indicates that you're either accepted or rejected. We get back also a 277 CA, which is what we're using to drive this data analysis we're talking about today. And that 277 CA basically shows us any reason why your entire claim batch or even a claim line would get rejected. Okay? Now, there are a number of reasons that might get rejected. But primarily, these are all upfront rejections. In other words, your claim is not even getting into Medicare system at this point because of a particular problem. Okay, and that problem might be you're sending an invalid procedure code, an outdated or obsolete procedure code. The procedure code and the modifier don't match. It is not valid for billing, those kind of things. And really, the thing that I like about the 277 report is these are basic billing 101 issues that we're dealing with. Okay? In other words, you really should have zero errors or zero problems when you're sending in your claims. If you're keeping up with the LCDs, if you know how to bill a particular procedure code, if you know what modifiers go with it, if you know the units that go with it, all of those things, are explained to you in either the Medicare manual or in the LCDs. So we really shouldn't be making those kind of, those mistakes. Except occasionally, of course, you make just a not thinking about it mistake, but that's the kind of thing that that we're trying to avoid and stop. Okay, well, that's kind of where the data came from, and so we looked at this and kind of ran an analysis on all of our customers, and we're asking ourselves the question: how can we help our customers to not make these kind of mistakes anymore? how can we, minimize or eliminate completely, these kind of silly mistakes that we're seeing that, customers are having. And of course, we're, aided in that by CEDI. They are periodically sending out some emails that basically show you, for example, what the top 10 CDI edits were. And I'm just going to share my screen with you right now. And this is actually an email that I got this morning, so it was very fortuitous that we got this email today, but this is the top 10 CDI edits for August of 2012. And so basically these are the top 10 problems that billers all across the country are having, okay? And I'm sure that you've seen an email similar to this. Each of the 4 DMACs also send out a variation of this as well, but it's pretty much consistent, seemingly, across all of the billers across the country as far as what they're getting rejected for. For example, when we look at the very top error, okay, that's this CS, actually it's an A7507. And, honestly, I kind of ignore that A7, A6, A8 part because it doesn't really help me much. But the status code is what I concentrate on, that 507 HCPCS. Now, Medicare says that that A7507 should, illustrate or should explain to you exactly what the problem is. But, we've had a lot of people call and, ask us, what exactly those codes mean, and I'm going to show you how you can interpret those a little bit better in just a few minutes. But basically it's showing us that an A7507 is the top rejection across the country, okay, HCPCS. And then it goes on to say, okay, here is our issue. The procedure code must be a valid HCPCS code. This is caused by sending an invalid HCPCS and possibly a modifier combination. Okay, and so basically, this is what I would classify as an education problem. In other words, you have provided a product, and when you went to bill it, you didn't send them the correct procedure code, you didn't send them the correct procedure code and modifier combination. And what we did as part of our, trying to figure out, what customers, what we could do for customers, is we kind of looked at that and saw, or I guess, looked at the people who were getting this error and what they were sending, okay? And of course, we only looked up probably a fraction of the number, and that one's we're checking into, so I'm not going to show you that one. We only looked into a fraction of the potential problems, but these are just a couple of examples, and so I just wanted to, show you kind of, what was going wrong here. In this example, here's the the line I'm looking at. This customer sent in an A9900NUKX. Okay, that is the procedure code. Let me see if I can highlight that so you can see just exactly what we're dealing with. They sent in that procedure code and those 2 modifiers. Well, our research indicated that the KX modifier indicates that the documentation meets Medicare criteria, and yet they were trying to bill this one for denial. And in this case, they should have used, this person should have used the GY modifier, which means you're billing for denial. In the next example, the KX modifier is wrong for an LO625 KXGA. They've included the KX, okay, but they should only have used the CG. I guess I'm part of this. I'm not a biller, so a little bit of this does not is not automatically make sense, I guess, to me, but should not have used the GA modifier for this particular product with the KX. And in the next example, we've got a person billing an A6530 NUGY. And in this example, if you just simply look at the fee schedule, there is no NU. They should have simply billed the A6530. So they added the NU modifier, should not have done that. Okay, and so those are a few examples of why you would see, let me jump back to that, why you would see this A7507 on your 277 CA report. And then, kind of, continue here, this next problem, the A7164IL, okay, if you look at that, it says the entities contract / member number and subscriber, and then if you look at the detail, it says the subscriber's HIC number is invalid. And when we looked at the information being sent from our customer, sure enough, okay, they were doing some things wrong. You notice I've kind of cleaned this up for patient health information, but they were basically, transmitting, this number space A, and in most cases they were simply forgetting to put the ABCD on there, as you can see, and so that was the problem, that they were having. Okay. And so kind of the the list goes on as far as the top 10 list that we're seeing from Medicare. You can kind of walk down through the list, and in that example, probably the problem with the HIC number is just getting in too big of a hurry, not thinking about every Medicare number has more than a Social Security number attached to it. You have an ABCD. You have a letter in front of the the HIC number, and so that I would describe not necessarily as an education, but just a going too fast and not thinking about what you're putting on there, or maybe they didn't check the the person's Medicare number closely enough. But just taking a look at some of the other codes, this 496, submitter not approved for electronic submission on behalf of the payer, that is generally your billing. That's not going to affect our customers as much as anybody else. Basically what that means is that your NPI number has not been approved for submitting through the electronic submitter number that you're using. Now what we do is we basically kind of vet all of that before we ever allow you to send your claims through our clearinghouse. And so while that is the third highest problem for most other billers, we've almost completely eliminated it with billing through our gateway. And then we've got several other errors here that I'll go into a little bit more. So then the next thing that we did is we basically broke everything down and said, okay, this is CEDI's top 10. This is basically the top 10 problems across the country. What are the big problems for Team DME users? And so what we did there is, just internally, we created a spreadsheet. We basically wrote a program to go through all of our 277 CAs and basically pull out that pertinent information. And as you can see, just like Medicare, okay, this is sorted in order of the most rejections that we got, the most entries. And as you can see, our top one is A119, but that indicates the claim is accepted, so that's not a rejection at all. Our first real rejection is this A7507, exactly following what CEDI is finding as well. That is, our customer's top problem is not knowing what procedure code and modifier or the HCPCS modifier is invalid. That is Team DME's customer's problem, top problem, just in the same way that it's CEDI's top problem as well. You look at the number 2 problem, and you can see here in this column, this is the top 10 problems for CEDI in April, June, July, and April, June, July, and August. So I went ahead and put the August stuff in there. So the number 1 problem for CEDI in August is also Team DME's problem. The number 2 problem in August is that invalid HIC number that we looked at, And again, that's not our number 2 problem, but it is very close to the top. And so, basically, I guess that's not surprising. Our customers have some of the same problems that, everybody across the country does. But we do have some edits in place that make some of the problems really way down on the list. For example, there's the number 3 problem for CEDI, which is the NPI number has not been approved for submission through the electronic submitter number, and yet we've pushed that down to our 51st kind of problem. And so I think that's that's fantastic, and that's kind of what we kind of started on this journey to do, is to identify some areas that we could maybe improve the IntelliCheck so that we can stop some of these silly problems from ever happening before you see them. And I think we can see that that as a result here, a lot of the problems that people are having across the country, Team DME providers are not having. For example, here's in past months, the 7th and 8th particular problem, that PO box and address, and you can see Team DME people had 0 of those particular issues, and that's because we put in an edit check some releases ago that basically we're stopping you if you happen to put in a PO box in your billing address. We're not allowing that claim to go out, and so that's that's kind of what we started this process for, and are going to be continuing along that road. So you can see that again we have some of the same problems, but then we're also eliminating problems as we go along. Okay. All right. So that's basically Team DME's top 10 list of problems and issues, and these again are going to be Billing 101 and just silly mistakes. For example, we talked about the procedure code and the modifier invalid. This one, which is an A7 187, dates of service. Okay, there are 2 reasons why we have found that people will get that A7 187. Let me pop it up here for you. Where did I put it? There we go. Okay. This is a future data service. Okay, that is the error, and the 187 says data service. So basically there's 2 reasons why people are getting that. One, they're simply putting in a future data service. For example, this particular claim batch was processed 7/3, and yet they had a date of service 07/06. So that's 3 days in advance of processing the claim. There's no way that the customer could tell that they were going to provide service in 3 days. And so as a result, Medicare rejected that. And this is one of the easy ones. In the last release, we put in a check for this. So basically, if you start to send out a claim at a future date, we're going to stop you and not allow that to go out until, in this case, 2 more days. This one's 7/5 being processed on 7/3. Okay. Then the other problem that we found this error happening in is when you were billing a date range and the product did not need a date range, Medicare would generate this particular error. For example, here we have an EO601 which does not need span dates. And I'm not, let me see what then, just a second here. Let me figure out what an EO601 is. Okay, that's a CPAP device. Okay, and according to Medicare's billing rules, that does not need, where'd my cursor go? That does not need a span date, and yet this particular customer put in a span date for that particular product. They billed an EO601 RRKIKX, and they billed it with this span date. Okay, that particular product doesn't need a span date, and so therefore Medicare rejected it for a future date. Now, Why they rejected it for a future date, I don't quite understand that, because even if that date is not, this is what the only thing they could be talking about, even if this date is not in the future, it will still be rejected as a future date. So you kind of have to do a little bit of detective work, I guess, to to figure that one out. But here's another example. Well, this is an E0601 again, and again you see the span date. Here is another product. This is an ostomy product, and the procedure code was A4416NU. That's a purchase, okay, and yet they've put it in as a span date, and so that one's going to be rejected for a future date as well. And again, this is billing education. If you read the Medicare manual, if you read the LCDs, you should know that this procedure code does not need a span date when it's being billed, and yet in this example, that was the case. Our other, here again we've got invalid HCPCS units for this A8-476. That was a big error for our Team B&E customers, and again that was. Let me go find 476. Okay. And this was an example of, for example, this patient billed an E0305 RRKX, as you can see here, and that's bedside rails, and they billed a quantity 2. And yet if you read the Medicare manual, the LCDs, those are billed by the pair, and so the units should be 1. KO195, elevating leg rests, pair. Again, those are billed by the pair, and yet, when the customer put it in, RRKJKX, they billed quantity 2, or units of 2. Again, that that is in the LCDs, and should be billed only as a quantity of 1. Here's an example of an alternating pressure pad with pump. Okay. A EO181 RRKJKX, and they billed 10 units, which I'm assuming was for the 10 days that the patient had it, but that should be billed as 1 unit according to the Medicare manual and LCDs. So that again is a lack of understanding about the product or products that we're billing, and so that would again be an education kind of thing. We talked about the invalid HIC number. In this example, an A8306, that's that new detailed description that Medicare wants for the miscellaneous products like an E1399. They want an additional description in addition to just simply miscellaneous product. And we've actually put code in there with the latest version to basically say, okay, here's your miscellaneous products, and opening up that description field for the user to type into, in fact forcing them to type into it if it is a miscellaneous procedure code. So that's what we're trying to accomplish. We've kind of looked at all the problems. We're busy behind the scenes working on making the program better so that it will point out to you some of these problems that you're seeing, or problems that you may get on the 277CA, and hopefully stop you from making those problems in the future. Even where we're talking about invalid HCPCS and the procedure code modifier, we're right now working on basically giving you a list of all of the procedure code and modifier combinations that have been paid in the last, say, 180 days. So that if you type in a procedure code and modifier, kind of like this customer did, let's go back to, here we go. This customer, this happened to be a repair, and they put in EO601 RR, which stands for rental, and then RP, which stands for repair. So clearly those are mutually exclusive. You can't have a month's rental and a repair modifier at the same time. Well, what we're trying to do is basically say, if you're billing an EO601 and you put in this code as a modifier, we're going to pop up and say, Medicare has not paid for this in the last 180 days. Maybe you meant and then they'll be able to see the RR, KJ, KX, or they'll be able to see the RP and hopefully maybe choose the correct one. So we're using this for our own purposes to make the program better, to make you a better billing company, a better biller. But there is also an element here to kind of point out to you, hopefully, what we're hoping that the performance charts will do is motivate you to kind of do your own education internally so that your staff knows what to be billing as far as a procedure code and modifier combination, and then what not to be billing as well. And we're hoping that the people who maybe didn't do so well on the performance charts will do a little bit of work, a little bit of education, and be doing much better the next month that this rolls around. This is not something that we're planning on offering to people forever, but we want to basically do it for the next say 6 months, and to encourage you to use it to make your billing better each month that you go along, so that you can get down to those 0 errors that a lot of our customers are seeing. All right. Well, a couple of customers people are asking where we don't see any charts. Who are they being sent to? Okay. Amber's asking that question. Basically, we sent the performance charts to the contact person, the one contact person that we had in our system for Team DME completely. In other words, the owner or the business manager, the person who is kind of responsible, quote unquote, for Team DME is the person who got those charts. Okay. And we sent those out to 230 or so email addresses for those various people. Now, what we're hoping is that basically that business manager would share those with the people who are doing the billing and basically say, okay, here's what we're doing for this month. What can we do to improve? Okay, and so that's where the charts came from. The other reason you may not have received a chart is if you're not submitting your claims through the Team DME gateway, through the CDI gateway. We don't send your claims, therefore we don't get the 277s back, and so there is no data for us to give you. And so that is a one alternative, one explanation as far as why you may not have received those charts. You are welcome to call us here in support and basically have us look up whether you are sending your claims through us or not. If you are, great. We're going to make sure that you get those reports. The other reason is, of course, if the person that we sent the chart to didn't share that with the people within the company. And of course, that's going to be a question that you may need to ask internally. Again, we'll be happy to show you who we have as that responsible person in our office. We can look that up pretty easily, and hopefully be able to get that information from that person. Okay. Well, let's take a look at some of the 277 charts that you may have received, and kind of let's talk about what it means. The charts themselves, bear with me just a second, my format doesn't quite fit on the screen, and so I'm going to pull it over here, and okay. Now, this is just showing customer numbers, so I don't think that we have to fear showing any information that is not appropriate for a particular person to see. But basically, this is an example. Let me maybe find one that's more normal, I guess you can say. This is an example of some of the charts that you would have been seeing. Now, we're looking at the 277 error ratio to claims. This is chart number 1 right now. Okay, and basically what this says is that this is actually working on August data, so yours will say 8/2012, but we had 2 errors on 77 claims that were submitted. Okay, now if you'll pull out your calculator and do the math, that works out to be 2.6%. Okay, basically 2.6% means if you submit 100 claims, then 2.2 or 3 will be rejected. Okay, and so that's where the 2.6% comes from. Now you can see here, let me get my little handy highlighter here. You can see here that the median is 3%. Now what do we mean by the median? Okay, that basically means that for all of the customers who are participating in the survey, if you laid them out from best to worst and counted them up, and let's say there are 500 customers, and you go back to number 250, this is his value. He was at 3. He or she was at 3%. Okay, so that represents, in essence, the average or the middle of all of our customers had 3%, had a 3% error rate. Now our best customers had 0%. In other words, they submitted 1,000 claims and they got 0 errors back, so they're doing great. Okay, but the average was 3%. Okay, and then you see your bar right here. Okay, this percentage is your performance, and so you can compare yourself. In this example, 2.6% compares not very favorably to the best, but compares favorably to our middle or median customer. And so they're not doing great, but at least they're doing a little bit better than the median customer. Okay, now why the colors? Okay, we basically gave these bars 3 different colors. Green if you were doing good. We gave an aqua if you were kind of in that middle ground, and then red if we felt like that you really needed to focus on improving your process. Okay, and we chose for that just an arbitrary 2%. In other words, in looking at our other customers and looking at first of all, that a lot of our customers got a 0% ranking. We figured that we just kind of made up that 2% was kind of the target that we want people to shoot for, and so this person is not quite getting that 2%, and so they've gotten a red bar. If your ranking was a little bit better than that, let me get back to my okay. Here's an example of a customer who's doing really well. They had 3 errors on 657 claims up here, and so that gave them an error ratio of 0.5%, and so that's doing really well. Their bar is going to be green. Okay. We can look at some other customers. There's a 2%. There's a 6.5%. We had some customers. Okay, there's an aqua. At 1.4%. Anything less than 2, less than 1 got a green bar. Anything less than 2 got an aqua bar, and anything greater than 2 got a red bar. There's a person who's putting out 7.5%, and so that's not not good at all. There was a 9%. Wow. Okay, here's a person who is not, and of course they're not doing very many claims. As you can see over here, they've got 7 errors on 8 claims, and so that's almost 90% error rate. So that's terrible. But they're also not doing very many claims as well. So you can say, hey, we're doing a lot better than some people, and that's also kind of the reason that we chose to use the median customer rather than the average, because we felt like that the average would skew the we have a few customers who are just doing terrible like that, and we felt like that they would skew the bar too much. So that's basically what the data means. Okay, and you can use that both to compare yourself again to the best customer and also to the median customer. We didn't really want to show you the worst customer there as well, but if you've got a red bar, in our estimation, you really need to focus on these 277 errors because you're outside of the norm. Okay. Now, then we have this chart down here. Kind of pull it down a little bit bigger, which basically shows you your ranking. Let me think of how to explain this. It shows you your ranking overall. Okay. In other words, if we laid all of our customers out from the best to the worst and called that from 0 to 100%, where are you going to fit along the bar? In other words, this customer had a 2.6% error rate. I'm sorry, a 2.6% error rate. Okay. Well, again, that was better than the median. Median was 3%, and so they were at 46%. Okay, that was their rank. Now, if we look at the customer who did, that customer did a really good job. Okay, we'll look at this one. This person had less than 1% error rate. Okay, so they were at a 21% ranking. In other words, 21%. Well, let's say 20% of our customers did better than they did. Okay, and do the math in my head. 78% of our customers did worse than they did. Okay, so that's what you can use that chart to see. Again, hopefully motivating you to to focus on improving that error rate. Now, we also gave you a couple more charts that we called claim volume, and this was just to give you an idea of kind of where your company ranks overall, based on claim volume and then also in claim dollars. For example, our best customer sent almost 1,700 claims through the gateway last month. Okay, the average, we did an average here, was 304 claims. Well, this customer sent 450, so a little better than average, but quite a bit off of the best customer. Okay, and then we also have the dollars down here. Okay, our best customer or highest dollar volume customer sent over $500,000, 545,000 this past month. The average was little over 75,000, and this customer did a little bit better than the average, sending 90,000. Okay, and the reason that we chose to include those is is I can kind of see a lot of customers thinking to themselves, well, we're kind of a high volume business, and it would be expected that we should get more errors maybe than the average participant here in the survey, because we have such a high volume and we're doing so much work. And so I kind of looked into that a little bit, and I just want to pull out a couple of customers here. 184. This was our customer who did the absolute best in dollars. Okay, in other words, this is the customer that sent that $454,000. Now let's take a look at their claim errors. Okay, they had 0.8%, less than 1%. So they ranked, at the 26th percentile. Okay, so they could do better, certainly, but they're doing awfully well as it is, and they were our highest by claim dollars than any customer that we had this past month. Now, they were not our highest based on claim volume. Okay, simply the number of claims. Okay, that award went to another customer. Let me find it here. There it is. Okay, you can see their dollar volume was not the best, but they were our highest volume of claims customers. Now, really, I should go look and see who that customer is and figure out what kind of products that they're providing, but basically they had a 0.7% error ratio. So if you think that a lot of volume kind of gives you a little bit of leeway with the error percentage, I mean what I'm seeing kind of argues against that. The people who are sending the most volume and the most dollars through the system are the people who are doing really well with their claim error ratio as well. So good bit of information there for you to see. Okay, now let's talk about, okay, we see what the problem is. We want to fix it. Okay, what can we do? Okay, how do I improve my my billing overall? Well, that's where our final page that we showed you comes into play. And let me just jump back to our first customers here. Okay, and we showed you, okay, you can look up, you should be getting an email, I'm assuming, about Medicare's top 10 errors. I kind of showed you Team DME's top 10 errors, but here you can see your top 10 as well. For example, this particular customer only had one error. Okay, now they had 11 of them, all right, but they only had one error, and that was an A7 585, and that is basically their own zip code. They didn't put the zip +4. Okay, I recognize that one right offhand, but they sent in 11 claims and they had that an invalid zip code. Let me see if I can. Okay. All right. This customer had only one error, and it was an A7 480, which indicated that both their primary and secondary policies were MB, Medicare. Basically they'd sent a primary and a secondary that indicated they were both Medicare. Okay, that's going to get rejected, right away. Okay. Let me jump to the next customer. This is not very friendly, but at least it shows you. Okay, this person had two errors, which was that future date of service, the 187. Okay, and so basically they're either sending future dates, or probably more likely they're sending a from and a through date when the procedure code doesn't need it. So basically, now you've seen Medicare's top 10, you've seen our top 10. Now these are your top 10. Okay, and kind of the thought is basically if you will focus on either educating yourself about these errors that you are doing, figure out why they're happening, figure out what you can do to eliminate them from happening, that will make your billing a lot better. Okay, and so I think we've kind of in this performance chart given you all the tools that you need at least to start down the road of improving your own billing. Okay, all right. Does anybody have any questions? I don't see anybody with their hand raised, which is not surprising. We don't have a lot of people, excuse me, with microphones on their computers. But let's take a look at some of the questions that we've been getting. Deanna asked, how do we obtain the report from Medicare? And basically I would assume that what you are referring to there is the email that I was showing you, which was the top 10 errors from CEDI. And basically you can go to CEDI's website and sign up for their newsletter alerts, or it's not a newsletter, but for their email alerts, and they'll basically send you emails when they're down, when the CEDI office is going to be closed. If they're having a particular problem, they'll send you emails for that, and then they'll also send you these top 10 CEDI edits for each month. And basically what they're hoping that you'll do is basically look at those and see if you can stop some of those from happening yourself, kind of like what our webinar is here today. All right. Next question, Jeff asked, where do we see the actual errors that were compiled on the chart we received? Okay. Basically, if you're looking at the chart and you're seeing your top 10, okay, you can actually go to inside of TeamDME. Give me just a second to find that. I wasn't prepared for that question. Okay, I'm just going to have to do it from memory. Basically, what I would suggest is that if you want to see, okay, for example, it's saying that we're getting 2 of these date of service errors for a future date, you can go into your claims pending list, then go to the claims submission list, okay, and then you see the green flags on the 999 and the green, yellow, and red flags on the 277. Okay, look up any yellow flags or red flags that are on the 277, click on sets and click on errors, and it will show you the actual errors that you're getting. Now, let me give you one qualifier here. When I looked at all of the error messages, I did not put them all in the system. For example, that A7507 is always attached to a A3247, okay? And you can see I've got it commented here. That's a companion code for the 507. And so basically, because these errors are tied together, I did not count them as 2 errors. I only counted the 507 as an error. And so I didn't include that on the reports at all. But when you go back and look at it, you're going to see that A3247, and you may wonder, well, why didn't Rick tell me about the A3247 as a problem? Well, that's because that's a companion code for the 507, and you never see it unless there's a 507 error. And so basically, the 507 is the problem, not the 247. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. Okay? But you can actually look at the detail of where this came from. Again, this is all for August. So any claims that you transmitted to us in August are what we're looking for there. But you should be able to go back and look at the actual problems that you were seeing. Let me also at this point make a distinction between our DOS and our Windows customers. Okay, I provided this same chart for our Windows customers as well. Excuse me, for our DOS customers as well. Okay. Now, you do not see that your median is 3%. And that's because when I looked at DOS, our DOS customers versus Windows, my DOS customers basically were skewing the chart. Okay? I get a lot of times people will tell me, well, why don't you upgrade from DOS to Windows? Well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Okay? Well, if you look at the charts, it's broke. Okay? Because your median value is 4.3%, as opposed to a 3%. So basically, on average, you're getting 70% more rejections than our Windows customers are getting. And the reason for that is because there are a lot of IntelliChecks built into the Windows package that basically stop you from sending problem claims. Okay? Like the P.O. box that we talked about. We're going to be adding some IntelliChecks here shortly to basically stop you from sending even invalid units, invalid HCPCS and modifier combinations. But basically, the DOS, our DOS customers are not getting those, and so basically you're making more and more errors all the time compared to our Windows customers as well. So your median, or your median percentage rate was 4.3%. That's basically 70% higher than our Windows customers. And that's why I separated the charts, because I did not want our Windows customers going, hey, I'm doing a great job compared to these DOS customers. Because the Windows customers, you have a better tool to work with. And so your errors should be actually less. Okay, I'm going to take a look at some of the other questions here. We're running out of time. how do we tell how we did? Robin asks. Well, that's basically this chart. These two charts, the first two, show you basically how you did. In other words, the median was 3%, and this customer did 2.6. You can kind of see your ranking based on the second chart, which is this person. If 50% is the half mark, the median customer, this person did 47%. So I call them pretty average. They're very close to average, in other words. So this person did an average job. Okay. All right. Kelly asked, can you send me the chart ratios? And the answer is no. Basically, we sent those charts to the person on file that we have at Team DME. Basically, if you would give our technical support department a call, we'll tell you who that person is. And if you want, if you need us to change that person, we'll be, happy to. As soon as we do need some authorization to do that. But basically, we can only send that chart to the person of record, with Team DME. So we've had a couple of people ask, well, can you send it to me too? And we just don't have it designed to do that. So we can only send it to the one address, and so we're using the primary contact that's listed with Team DME. Okay. And then, Robin asks, how do we get the chart? Basically, the chart goes to you automatically if you're that person of record in Team DME's system. And, I would suggest if you're sending your claims through the Team DME gateway, call support. They'll be happy to tell you who that email address is that we're sending the charts to. And then you can contact them and say, hey, you got a 277 performance chart that I would like to take a look at and use, and so they'll know then that that you need that, but that does only go at this point to one person in our list. All right, does anybody else have a question? I think I have tried to cover everybody's question that I've seen in the system. I hope what my aim is that you'll use this information to basically say, okay, here's where we are, here's maybe where we're having a problem, let's focus on making ourselves better in the next month. And what I would love to see is basically, this was August, so when we send out the September information, granted you've only got you've got 2/3 of the month to work on it here, that your September numbers will be better, and then October will be better, and November will be better, and December will be even better. We believe that we're providing the tools that allow you to be the best billing person or company out there with our IntelliChecks and with our aids, and we're really trying to find a way to prove that that Team DME users sent in the fewest number of errors, that get their claims in more quickly than other companies, and have a better DSO than anybody out there. And we're using this as a first step. We want you to see where you stand and encourage you to do even better. And with our next release, we should be able to help you even more beyond that. Well, we're running out of time here. I do want to give you one more poll here, and that is, do you plan to use the performance charts to improve your billing? Yes, no, or just not sure at this point. So, okay, and we've got 60% of the people voting. Give you another few seconds to finish up there. Once we conclude the webinar, there will be a survey. When you log off, there will be a survey that will pop up, I believe, in your browser, and basically just asked a few questions about was there anything that you didn't like about the webinar today? Was there anything that you particularly did like? Are there any webinars you'd like to see us do in the future? A few questions like that to help us make it better as we go along. We would appreciate if you'd take just a moment to answer those questions. All right, we'll close the poll and we'll share that with everybody. And some good information, 85% of the people say that they should be able to use the performance charts to improve their billing. Yay! Of course, if you're getting 0%, that you can't improve much, but hopefully you'll be able to see some good results from month to month. I appreciate very much everybody taking the time to join us today for the webinar. We try to hold these to an hour at all times, so we're out of time at the moment, but if you would like to give technical support a call and perhaps ask that question of who is getting your performance charts, and then you can get it from that person, or we may have the wrong email address. We'll be happy to put in a corrected email address for that. But again, I appreciate everybody joining us today, and if there are ways that we can improve the webinar, we'd love to know about that, and we'd love to know how we can help you. So thank you, and have a great day.